The echo of the last bell. It was June 2001, the last day of school at Jefferson High, a crumbling old building in a small Ohio town where nothing ever happened. I was 17, a senior, counting down the minutes until summer break. The air was thick with that electric buzz of freedom, kids shouting about parties, lake trips, and sneaking into the old quarry to swim. But for me, the day felt heavy, like a storm was brewing just out of sight. I couldn't explain it, but something was off. Jefferson High was ancient, built in the 1930s, with peeling paint, creaky wooden floors, and a basement that smelled like mold and regret. The teachers barely cared on the last day. It was a half day, just a formality. We'd clean out lockers, get our report cards, and bolt when the final bell rang at 1 p.m. I was in Ms. Delaney's English class, half listening to her ramble about summer reading, when I first noticed something strange. The classroom clock, an old analog thing above the chalkboard, was ticking backward. Not fast, just a subtle jerk of the second hand, moving left instead of right. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was seeing things. When I looked again, it was ticking normally. Weird, but I brushed it off. Last days always made me antsy. The bell rang, and the room erupted. Kids grabbed their bags, laughing and shoving toward the door. I headed to my locker, weaving through the chaos of the hallway. Lockers slammed, sneakers squeaked, and someone's boombox blared early 2000s pop. But as I spun my locker combination, that heavy feeling hit me again, like a cold hand on my neck. I glanced around. The hallway was packed, but for a split second, it felt like everyone was moving in slow motion, their voices muffled, like I was underwater. Then it snapped back to normal. My heart was racing. Maybe I was just tired. I hadn't slept well, kept awake by nightmares. I couldn't quite remember that I opened my locker, and there it was, a folded piece of graph paper, tucked between my history textbook and a crumpled gym shirt. I didn't remember putting it there. I unfolded it, expecting a note from my buddy Mike, who was always leaving dumb sketches or fake love letters to mess with me. But this wasn't Mike's style. It was a drawing, done in black ink, so detailed it gave me chills. It showed the school's main hallway, right down to the cracked tiles and the flickering exit sign. In the center was a figure, tall, impossibly thin, with arms that hung too long, almost the floor. Its face was a blank smudge, like someone had smeared the ink before it dried. At the bottom, in sharp, uneven letters, was written, "Don't leave when the bell rings." My stomach dropped. This wasn't a prank. It felt personal, like it was meant for me. I looked around, but no one was watching. The hallway was emptying out as kids rushed to their last classes. I shoved the paper in my pocket, telling myself it was nothing, just some weirdo's idea of a joke. But my hands were shaking. My last period was study hall in the library, a dusty room with sagging shelves and a carpet that smelled like it hadn't been cleaned since the Nixon administration. I sat in the back, near a window that overlooked the parking lot. I tried to focus on my Game Boy, but my eyes kept drifting to the paper in my pocket. I pulled it out. The figure's smudged face looked darker now, almost like it was staring back. I know that sounds insane, but I swear the ink had spread, like it was bleeding. I crumpled it up and tossed it in the trash can by the librarian's desk. I wasn't dealing with this crap. The library was quiet, just a few kids whispering and the librarian, Mrs. Kessler, sorting books. I glanced out the window, watching kids already sneaking out to the parking lot, ditching the last hour. But then I saw something that made my blood freeze. Across the lot, near the rusted chain-link fence that separated the school from the woods, was a figure. It was tall, too tall, with long, unnatural arms swaying slightly. It stood perfectly still, facing the school. I couldn't see its face, but I felt its gaze like a weight pressing on my chest. I blinked, and it was gone. Just the empty fence and a few kids tossing a football. My heart was pounding. I told myself it was a trick of the light, or maybe I was losing it. I hadn't slept, and that drawing was messing with my head. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just my imagination. Something was wrong with this day. The final bell rang at 1 p.m., a loud, jarring clang that echoed through the school. The building exploded with noise, kids shouting, lockers slamming, footsteps thundering. Summer was here. I grabbed my backpack and headed for the exit, desperate to get out. But as I passed the library trash can, I stopped dead. The crumpled paper was gone. I dug through the can, heart racing, but it wasn't there. Just gum wrappers and a soda can. Someone, or something, had taken it that I pushed through the crowd to the main doors. The sun was blazing outside, the air sticky with June heat. Kids were spilling onto the lawn, high-fiving, tossing backpacks in the air. I was almost at the parking lot when I heard it, a faint whisper, barely audible over the chaos. "Stay." It wasn't a voice I recognized, and it didn't come from anyone around me. It was inside my head, cold and sharp, like a needle. I spun around, but no one was close enough to have said it. My skin crawled and I kept walking, faster now, toward my beat-up Honda. I just needed to get home, away from this place. But as I reached my car, I saw something that stopped me cold. Scratched into the driver's side door, deep enough to cut through the paint, were the words, "You were warned." The letters were jagged, like they'd been carved with a knife. I looked around, but the parking lot was a mess of kids and cars. No one was near my car. No one could have done this without me seeing that I got in, locked the doors, and peeled out of the lot. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely grip the wheel. I told myself it was just a prank, some kid with too much time on their hands. But that drawing, that figure, that whisper, it was too much to ignore. I needed answers that I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to Mike's house. He was my best friend, the only person I trusted to talk to about this. Mike was a skeptic, always laughing off ghost stories and urban legends. If anyone could talk me down, it was him. He was in his garage, messing with his skateboard, when I pulled up. "Dude, you look like you saw a ghost," he said, grinning. I didn't laugh. I told him everything. The drawing, the figure, the whisper, the writing on my car. I showed him the scratches, still fresh in the paint. His grin faded. "That's messed up," he said, running his fingers over the scratches. "But come on. Man, it's probably just some senior prank. You know how people get on the last day." Then explained the drawing, I said, and the figure I saw, and the paper disappearing. He shrugged, but I could tell he was uneasy. "Maybe you're just stressed. Finals were brutal. Why don't you crash here tonight? We'll grab some pizza, play some Nintendo. Forget this crap." I wanted to believe him, but that static feeling was back, stronger now. I agreed to stay, mostly because I didn't want to be alone. We hung out in his basement, playing Mario Kart and trying to act normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. Every creak of the house made me jump. Around 9 p.m., Mike's mom called us up for pizza. As we headed upstairs, I glanced out the basement window. The backyard was dark, lit only by a flickering streetlight, and there, at the edge of the yard, was a figure that IT was closer this time, standing just beyond the light. Its arms were long, dragging on the ground, and its head was tilted at an unnatural angle. I couldn't see its face, but I felt it staring. My breath caught in my throat. I grabbed Mike's arm and pointed, but when he looked, the figure was gone. "Dude, there's nothing there," he said, frowning. "You're freaking me out." I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that smudged face, those long arms. The next morning, I went back to the school. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I'd find answers, or maybe I just needed to prove to myself it was all in my head. The building was locked, the parking lot empty. I walked around to the back, where the woods met the fence. That's when I saw it, a trail, barely visible, leading into the trees. It wasn't a path kids use. It was too narrow, overgrown with weeds. But there were footprints, fresh ones, leading into the dark that I followed them. I know it was stupid, but I had to know. The trail wound deeper into the woods, the air growing colder, the trees thicker. After about 10 minutes, I found something that made my heart stop. It was a clearing, and in the center was a circle of stones, like an old fire pit. Scattered around it were papers, dozens of them, all drawings like the one in my locker. Each showed the same figure, the same smudged face, the same jagged handwriting. "Don't leave. Stay. You were warned." And then I heard it, the whisper, louder now, all around me. "You didn't listen." I ran, branches snapping under my feet, my breath ragged. I didn't stop until I reached my car. I drove home, locked every door, and didn't leave the house for days. I never went back to Jefferson High. My parents let me finish my senior year through correspondence, and we moved out of town that summer. I never told anyone else what happened, not even Mike. But sometimes, late at night, I hear that whisper, and every now and then I find a folded piece of paper in my car, my backpack, my room. Always the same drawing. Always the same words that I don't know what it wanted. I don't know why it chose me. But I know one thing. If you ever find a note like that on the last day of school, don't ignore it. Because some bells aren't meant to be the end.